Welcome to the Vet SOS Veteran Educational Program Spotlight. Remember, don't drown to see a transition. Grab the Vet SOS Lifeline. Vet SOS is brought to you by the Who You Know Network and a proud member of the Parade Deck community. I am here, as always, with my co-host, Dr. Hira. How are you doing today, Dr. Hira?
Doing great. I love learning about these schools. It makes me want to be a student again, although my husband said no more. So I'm really excited to learn about this university today.
Once you get the doctor in front of your name, I think you can stop. You can
That's what he said.
For a little bit. My goodness. So we got another challenging last name today. We'll see if we can butcher this. I'm always good for that, no matter how much coffee I have. So today we're sitting down with Stephen Pusateri. Close?
I'll take it. Yeah.
All right. Director of the Office of Military and Veteran Services at Simmons University. He has a master's in. I can't read this. Stephen Pusateri runs the Office of Military and Veteran Services at Simmons University in Boston, Mass. There you go. That makes more sense. And teaches in the undergraduate program. He holds a degree in English from the University of Pittsburgh and an M.F.A. in writing for children from Simmons University. Many students are working on graduate degrees in the helping and healing professions, namely social work, nursing, and library science. He is a member of AVECO, NAVPA, NAVPA, and the NASPA Veterans Knowledge Community.
I'll help you out there. It's AVECO, NAVPA, and NASPA.
Thank you. Thank you. Really, I should have asked those questions before we started too. Holy cow.
They're fun acronyms.
All right, so I'm off to a rip-roaring start. How are you doing today, Stephen?
I have no complaints. I thank you for inviting me. Thank you for letting me be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you on here. Yeah. And I should learn not to try to start the bio in the middle. This is great. All right. So tell us, about your pathway to higher education. How did that happen?
To higher education in general, back when I was living in Pittsburgh, sort of after, I'll take you through like the whole resume. This is what I do for my undergrad classes, where we talk about resume writing, career preparation, things like that. Kind of bounced around a few different jobs for a while. I was managing bands, was working in radio. I drove a cab for a little while. Band that I was working with had their VH1, behind the music moment where they broke up. I had to find a slightly steadier job. And I had a buddy that was working for an online school that was based out of Pittsburgh, where I'm from. There's a company called EDMC that managed a bunch of online universities. And that's how I got my foot in the door back around 2010. And then, working in the financial aid office. And then circumstances brought me to Boston, and I was looking for work in higher education. I did a bunch of temp jobs around at different universities. And then I saw an opening in the financial aid department at Simmons University, and I was like, I had never heard of it before. It's a small school located on the Fenway in Boston, and I looked at it more, and I saw this children's literature program, and I was like, oh, I want that degree, so I will work there. And I was lucky enough to get the position in the financial aid office. And then from there, I know probably the next question is going to be, how did you end up working with veterans there? And I'll say purely inadvertently by happenstance. It wasn't like a goal or a skill set that I had. It was more just the case that we were sort of very short staffed at that point. We didn't even have a director of student financial services at the time. This was about 2016. And my boss just sort of randomly handed me the military caseload. I was like a little bit like, I don't know that world very well. I didn't serve in the military. I've never touched a VA benefit. At my other school, the online school that I work for, if they found out you were working with a veteran student, they pulled that student away and sent them to another team that was like better versed in it. So purely by happenstance, I was like, I don't know how to do this really. And it was basically just like, well, you'll figure it out. We'll support you through it and what have you. So that's sort of how I got involved in some of the NASPA stuff and the NAVPA stuff to go to conferences and get additional trainings. But that was in general the pathway.
No.
That experience sounds like you're a veteran, because we get thrown stuff all the time. We have no idea how to.
I know it again, I think people think, oh, everyone who works in academia, like that was their goal all along. And no, we really do come from all walks of life and experiences. So, it's great to highlight that. Like, you don't have to have this originally on your radar. You can just kind of find your way there. Now, I'm from the area. I'm familiar with Simmons University, but I think others may not be. So can you tell us a little bit about the undergrad versus kind of the grad programming, because of who can attend your...
Yeah, no, an astute and well-directed question. Yeah, so at the undergraduate level, it's a women-centered institution. So you identify as male, you cannot attend, especially male from birth, I should say. So I have had a number of conversations, like if I'm at a college fair, say, recently I was at one at Fort Leonard Wood. Prior to that, I was one at Camp Pendleton. And I'll get a lot of, I would get a male Marine come up to me asking me about a bachelor's degree. And I would just have to say, I'm sorry, man, I can't help you, So women only at the undergraduate level. Our graduate program is coeducational, though, and that actually tends to be where most of my student veterans and the dependents and spouses as well tend to gravitate. And I attribute that to a numbers game. Now, women are like the fastest rising population of active duty in the country, and so I expect this demographic to change for Simmons as more women are separating from service and looking for their bachelor's degrees. But yeah, very, very few at the undergraduate level, a great many, proportionally at the graduate level for Simmons. Yeah, that answered the question.
No, that's great. Yeah, I think it's a very wonderful opportunity for our female veterans to learn about these women serving institutions. Because again, there's a long history of really wonderful schools such as Simmons University providing them that space. And I can imagine after getting out of the military, it might be a real 180 going to a women's only undergrad program. But it's a cool opportunity as well. And, I know some veterans attending the graduate programs there. And so, yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity for anyone at that point to get to engage with you all. And I apologize, I don't know if I missed it, but roughly how many military connected students are part of both the undergrad and grad?
Oh, yeah, no, good question. You didn't miss it. Sorry. This is a number I should have memorized, but I tend to think of my population sort of as a whole. And so those using some form of education benefit would number about 160. Maybe we'll add an additional 5 onto that for folks who are attending not using any benefit. Yep. And then I can break that down a little better too. Like our on-campus students, I have about 20 student veterans on campus. And then I'd say about 50 student veterans attending our online programs. And then the rest of that number is made up by spouses and dependents. That was another point I probably should have made as well. We do have pretty much any degree you're looking at from Simmons, you can get online as well. Not quite so robust at the undergraduate level yet, but we have a number of undergraduate degrees you can complete through our complete degree program, we call it. And it's important to note that those online undergraduate courses are also women-centered as well.
That's awesome. And what I love about these segments is I learn something every single time, because I've done plenty of schooling. I just don't know a whole lot of the background stuff. So can you quickly tell us about these 3 acronyms that I completely butchered? Like, what are those, and how does that help you with your current job?
Yeah, no, great question. It's funny. The one I really can't tell you what the acronym means. NASPA, I actually have no recollection of what that stands for, but basically it's a student affairs sort of focused organization for higher education professionals. And why that was important to me to join that when I started, like the first encounter I had with that group was to attend their military connected symposium in Seattle, Washington in early spring 2020, which was like kind of wild to like hear about a couple weeks after I got back, like the outbreak of COVID and then how it sort of entered through Seattle. A little bit scary there. But they put on every year a great military connected symposium that ideally, but like benefits in an ideal way, a person like myself who had come in and was trying to develop, not just pathways for military students, but like the inclusion piece on campus, to develop programming for them. They focused on that. So from like a student affairs perspective, which was, admittedly sorely lacking at Simmons. Probably one of the things I should have talked about, and my pathway to working with veterans is the fact that, I had mentioned I started here at Simmons in student financial services as a financial aid counselor. And I was actually able to put together a pitch with the help of my boss, Amy, who's been very supportive of the military community at Simmons, and her former boss, Kristen, and a number of people to get to make a presentation to the president of the university at the time to say, hey, we need an office of military and veteran services, to move. And I titled that pitch like "Moving Beyond the Benefit," because I think it's a great disservice to veterans and their families to sort of only have like the only military interaction they'll have at a university is directly related to the education benefits they're using, their form of payment. So I wanted to move us beyond just the benefit of their GI Bill benefits and the benefit that they bring to the school in terms of their, persistence, their determination to get their degree, support their family, go on to bigger and better things. So we were able to create that office and this position in 2019, and been developing it from there. And so I continue to attend those professional organizations because we can always learn, we can always do better, we can always try to replicate programs that other schools who have a longer history or a more robust history of serving veterans. I'll steal any secret I can from them and try to implement it here. So NASPA is for like student affairs professionals. NAVPA, I'm not super involved in that one. That one is a little bit above my area of expertise. The folks that are in NAVPA, it's the National Association for Veteran Program Administrators. A lot of what they do is work on resolutions to present to the powers that be, politicians and whatnot, to improve the fundamental aspects of how education benefits operate. So I like to stay connected to see what they're doing, and to, if I ever have input, to offer it where I can. But being a part of that organization also affords our students the ability to apply for a scholarship. So that's one thing I love about that organization too, is they use some of that dues money to turn around and offer scholarships back to students. So that's great. And AVECO is for school certifying officials. So it's tips and best practices at their conferences for just staying up to date with changes that the VA rolls out with respect to things like enrollment manager, which is like, by comparison, like amazing and blessed change that they've made to the way that we report enrollment information to the VA. When I started at Simmons in 2016 and I started taking the training videos to use VA once, I wish I could instantly pull up one of those training videos right now, because it looked like it came straight out of like the late 80s. A guy sort of in a shirt and tie pulls up. He's like, "Hello there. Let's how to certify benefits." So AVECO is one of those organizations that's helping us to stay up to date on that stuff.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. The NASPA is the National Association of Student Personnel Administrators. So that one is when you think of higher ed and your administrator levels, that's their organization. But within it, as you were sharing, that they have a pathway for or a group within the kind of veteran circle. So for anyone who's listening, when you think of these organizations, there's the ones who are really probably influencing a lot of the policies that are happening on your institutions. They're, again, also advocating on the Hill for you. So they're good to know about, even if you're a student, because again, these are opportunities to think about like, hey, how can I learn more? If you're really into policy, if you're into, enacting change and making sure your, fellow student veteran is doing all right. They're the organizations that are helping the administrators and the professionals working with you. So, be involved. And there are opportunities sometimes for students to attend these, be representatives and ambassadors working with their, vet centers and other places. So keep that in mind as you're a student yourself. But, thank you for covering that. Because again, I think a lot of times we get tunnel visioned on, hey, I'm going to school and I'm going to just focus on the degree and the classes, but there's all these other opportunities to learn and engage and kind of continue to grow and build skills. I know we're going to be kind of crushed here on time, but if you give like one or two specific things that Simmons is doing for the military community in terms of engagement of programs, internship opportunities, whatever it may be, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. And part of this answer is sort of why I was, hoping to solicit help from my admissions department on this. But one thing we're really excited about, our School of Social Work, which is the oldest clinical social work program in the country, and is one of those helping and healing professions that I mentioned in the bio. We've unveiled a certificate program for working with active duty military and their families, which we're really excited about, which is really going to get underway in the spring semester. So a lot of benefits there. And that's not a program we're solely trying to recruit veterans into. It's for non-military as well, to kind of add that piece to their area of expertise as they go out and become clinical social workers. So that's an important one that we're very excited about at the university. And then other programming. So I'm excited. I have like a fairly full slate this semester. Recently, one of my Masters of Social Work students offered to take our student veterans out on a mindfulness hike, where he sat. His name's Michael Pedersen. He's phenomenal. He hosts a radio show called Hidden Battles Radio. He took our students out in Groton, Mass. We met up for a little bit of classroom instruction, a guided meditation, a sort of, discussion of like difficult and complicated emotions. And I felt enormously privileged to be sitting in this circle of veterans and hearing them share and hearing him get them to open up. And then we went out for a silent meditative hike on a very accessible path in Groton, Mass. And then, capped it off with some conversation and some pizza. So an event like that, I love. One thing that started in the pandemic, and it's actually that's two things I'm conflating, but I have a virtual veterans lounge where the first Monday of every month there's an opportunity to meet up via Zoom and just get to know one another. That one I'm happy with. I do a couple of what I call active study sessions, where this is the one that also started during the pandemic, and from a colleague of mine in the children's literature program when I was finishing up my master's at Simmons. M. Dixon suggested that we all meet up early on a Saturday morning to hold each other accountable for our writing progress. And I've come to learn it's called the Pomodoro method, where it'd be a Zoom meeting where we shoot the breeze for 5 minutes, and then everybody turns off their mic, turns off their camera. You set a timer for 25 minutes. And then you just focus on whatever reading, writing, asynchronous work you have to do for your program. At the end of that 25 minutes, mic on, camera on, decompress for 5. And so I do this Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 4:30 p.m. So we get 3 of those sprints in at each one of those sessions. So, I describe it to my incoming students as it's sort of like a study hall, like a guided study hall where we can all sort of try to carve out time during the day. Just hard to do, especially for master's students. They're so busy. Our social work students are doing, 3 days of clinicals, and might have a full-time job as well, and might have a full-time course load. So just trying to carve out some space like that.
That's awesome. I'd never heard of that method. But
it was enormously helpful to me. Finishing up my degree.
So, Dr. Here, we come down to time. These things go quick.
No, this has been great. So thank you, Stefan, for joining us on the Vet SOS podcast today. On behalf of the Vet SOS family, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us. You can find the Vet SOS podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, YouTube, and of course, social media platforms. Make sure you subscribe and follow Vet SOS so you don't miss a thing. And please remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the Vet SOS Lifeline.